John Swanner is joining us now outside the Holman Center, where, of course, things will get underway in less than an hour. That funeral service beginning at 11. John?
All right, good morning, Patrice, and thank you so much for joining us for this special coverage. In the rain, we were hoping it would hold off. It came just a few minutes ago, but it's now settled down a little bit here at the Holman Center. But as you can see behind me, the Patriot Guard still stands watch. And as we can see through the doors of the Holman Center, a large screen with a graphic behind me that has Detective Ferency's face on there. And you were talking earlier about how the communities come together and to show support of one another. And we've seen that crystal clear here as we've been standing outside the Holman Center watching people make their way in. People that have been working in the offices of the Terre Haute Police Department were one of the first ones here. Tears in their eyes already, knowing it's going to be a very long, emotional day. But perhaps for us standing outside here, I'm with photojournalist Tony Casasilla, and then also Ross Rawlings here. And for us, I think one of the more emotional moments is we were right next to the Patriot Guard when the family of Detective Ferency arrived, and just to see them and just wondering what's going through their minds right now, that was very emotional and moving for me personally. Yes, we've done these before, but they're each unique, and they're each very, very somber in their own ways. We've also seen a lot of dignitaries make their way here to the Holman Center. Senator Mike Braun is here. State Senator John Ford arrived with him. Former Sheriff Bill Harris is here at the funeral. And I've also seen former State Police Detective Frank Turchi. He's also here. A lot of people from days gone by. We've also met officers from all over the state of Indiana that are here. A lot of people from outside the area that are assisting this. It takes a village of police officers to pull off an event like this. And we're certainly thankful that they're here today. I know we were speaking just a few moments ago, an officer from Griffith, Indiana, which is up in the region, up in Lake County, and he says he's done a few of these, and like your officer from South Bend, he just said it's really nice to be back in Terre Haute. He just wishes it were under better circumstances. So everybody is inside the Holman Center for the most part. We do have a few people that have pulled up at the last minute here that are making their way inside, and then momentarily this funeral will get underway, and then of course we'll be out here to show you as the procession makes its way into moving, and we'll also bring you the footage of Detective Ferency's casket being brought outside and into the funeral coach. We'll have that for you as well. But we expect the funeral to be about 2 hours, maybe a little more than that. And so stick with us. We got a long way to go here, but we'll be here all afternoon for you. Patrice, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, John. This is a bird's eye view right outside the Holman Center. This is the Cherry Street parking garage. And as you can see, Scott, cars are lined up. It's going to be a big, big, big attendance. We can tell you that we will respect the family's privacy. We will not be showing you faces of the family. We will not be showing you close-ups of the family. We are certainly going to respect their privacy. Scott, let's talk about first, I want to get to what happened yesterday, but let's talk about what's going on right now as we speak.
So officers are arriving now. We had staging, that's what we call for officers to arrive. They'll receive carnations that are dyed in red in the center of them. And then right now they should be having a briefing, which is we gather all officers that are present in the parking garage that's right across the street, and they will explain what's going to happen, where you need to be, how we're going to file it, et cetera. Important with that is a lot of people don't realize it's mandated that your spouse or significant other is with you at all times. That never used to be the case, but from a psychological component, if nothing else, that is so important to have, and we missed it for many, many years. It was only police and everybody else was off on their own, and that's not right.
Oh, it makes total sense.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned the carnation, the white carnation with red in the center. That represents blood loss.
The red in the center does, yes, for the blood that was shed for the community.
Okay. And we will be seeing later in the day, during the burial ceremony, that carnation will come back out again, and it holds a significant part of that ceremony.
Yes.
I want to step back in time, Scott, and talk about what happened yesterday during the visitation. It was the visitation for Detective Greg Ferency. And during that time, Chief Sean Keene from the Terre Haute Police Department performed a flag presentation. And a flag was placed on Detective Ferency's car sitting in the memorial at THPD headquarters. We also want to take a listen to some of that visitation.
In a nation of laws, patriotism knows no greater champion than that which is found in a police officer. Boldly standing on the thin blue line, separating peace from anarchy, the police officer knows that the war will never end. The police officer stands there anyway, a vigilant sentry, fighting the continuing war one battle at a time. Detective Greg Joseph Ferency courageously stood his post for over 3 decades, representing what is best in society, going into places that the average person fears to tread, seeing things no one wants to see. By simply putting on his uniform and going to work every day, Greg made this country, this community, a better place to live. Therefore, we present Greg this flag of the United States of America, a symbol of hope, with a prayer that it will offer him the comfort of a grateful nation.
And again, that was from yesterday's visitation. Chief Keene also awarded medals posthumously to Detective Greg Ferency. Officers presented arms, saluted, then the public viewing began. He laid in state with 2 guards, one at his head, one at his foot, at his feet, and they swapped every 10 minutes. Now, Scott, there is history there. Laying in state with 2 guards. Talk about that.
There is that, and that's a long-standing tradition with police officers in general. Always, no matter what, we'll always have an armed personnel at the head. Okay. We try to have head and foot. There was some not obvious armed, but we did have some FBI agents who were also standing guard, which does not typically happen when it's a task force officer. Okay. So that was a bit unusual, and not in a bad way at all. It was actually probably one of the most astounding things that I have seen, where somebody is in a suit and tie perform. It's usually a uniformed officer, as you saw there, with the honor guard attire, the white gloves and everything. So that was quite a bit different, but it was phenomenal to say the least.
Let's show everyone the medal presentation that happened yesterday. I mentioned that Chief Sean King posthumously awarded Detective Greg Ferency 2 medals, medals of honor. It was awarded yesterday to the family and, of course, to him. And let's take a listen to that.
On July 7th, 2021, Detective Greg Ferency, while assigned as an FBI task force officer, found himself and the office itself under attack. This cowardly attack was perpetrated by an armed gunman who had also deployed destructive devices commonly known as Molotov cocktails at the building before engaging in an exchange of gunfire with Detective Ferency. Detective Ferency recognized that he and his FBI counterparts were in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death, and he confronted the danger in a selfless act of courage by engaging the subject to stop the attack. This act of courage cost Detective Ferency his life and likely saved others from the same fate. For Detective Ferency's courageous and heroic actions, the Terre Haute Police Department Awards and Commendation Board has conferred the Medal of Honor posthumously and the Wounded in Combat Medal to him on this 9th day of July, 2021.
The Medal of Honor was awarded and Wounded in Combat Medal. Now, Scott, talk about those 2 medals for us.
Yeah, it's similar to a Purple Heart is what it was. Actually, was help putting up the display last night for the services today. Removed it from there. So that's obviously injury or death that occurred during an armed confrontation, like as we saw. And the Medal of Valor is obviously for Greg taking the action that he did and likely and obviously saving the lives of others.
Well, and you're seeing Chief Keene there walked to place the medal on the memorial. You also saw that portrait of valor, and what a great picture that is of Greg. Sheriff Clark Cottom from Sullivan County mentioned that he had a twinkle in his eye, and that really comes out in that portrait of valor. That is just a beautiful portrait that will be given to the family, and I'm sure that they will just cherish that photo. Let's take a look at that portrait closer. This is the digital rendition, but they're going to actually get a portrait. His THPD badge around his neck. From what I understand, he wore that baseball cap a lot, loved baseball caps. And here, of course, is Officer Rob Pitts. Johnny Castro is the one who did these paintings, and they're just beautiful. And this too is history and tradition.
Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, we've seen a variety of them. I know Mr. Castro does a phenomenal job. He's done many. Unfortunately, he's had the experience which he shouldn't have. But in any case, it's so realistic. It's actually kind of it's kind of weird how so realistic it looks. It's just it struck me yesterday as well.
Well, and in this case, Detective Ferency, he caught his great smile and that twinkle in his eyes. We do need to talk about, of course, the 3 officers that were killed in Terre Haute in the line of duty in the last decade. Certainly want to honor all 3 men. This marks the 3rd line of duty death from the Terre Haute Police Department in a decade. Brent Long, that you see here, died 10 years ago, and again, that anniversary was just this Sunday. And Officer Rob Pitts died in May of 2018. Officer Long was shot and killed when he and other officers tried to serve a warrant. Officer Pitts died in the line of duty investigating a murder at the time. The suspect in the murder shot at police, killing Officer Pitts. You see a picture of him there. And it was just 3 years ago that you were sitting here with me talking to the community, going through his funeral service and his procession.
I remember that vividly.
So we certainly want to pay our respects to these men who, within a decade, unfortunately, join the list of 3 officers killed in the line of duty in a decade. Let's talk about what is going on today. There is a lot going on. We can tell you that the funeral service will be beginning in about 40 minutes. The family will be arriving at the Holman Center around 10:15. Here's a bird's eye view of the Holman Center, a live look from the Cherry Street garage in Terre Haute. We again are respecting the family's privacy. We will not be showing you their faces. Dignitaries will be seated. The public was allowed in to the Holman Center around 10 a.m. This is a street view, a live view from the Holman Center. The Patriot Guard, they go to all of the military funerals, not just, of course, not just police officers, but all military. They stand there with dignity and the American flag and show their respects. At 11 o'clock, officers will file in. First, Terre Haute Police Department, then any FBI officers that are representing the department, and then outside agencies. Each agency will file by the casket. The memorial service will begin at 11. Detective Ferency was Catholic, but there will not be a full mass. However, his family had a private mass at the funeral home, Callahan and Hughes in Terre Haute. Detective Ferency will be buried at Calvary Cemetery, and of course a priest will be presiding over the ceremony. At the end of the memorial, the priest will excuse the officers to receive Greg. They will move Detective Ferency out of Holman Center and the family will follow. The officer in charge will give a command from Holman Center doors to the funeral coach. Now let's talk about this officer in charge. There is an officer in charge for this ceremony. How is he or she picked, and what does he do?
So usually an honor guard member, but the chief will make that decision. As a team, we do that. We have several OICs, is what we call them, but most agencies have their own honor guard, and they also have somebody designated as their OIC, and in this case we do as well. Sarge, his name escapes me, Sarge, and I've talked to him many times over the years. Phenomenal job. There is a lot on his plate, and a lot of people don't realize he has got to think of every single movement, every single thing that takes place, not just regarding the honors portion, but everything else. Remember all that, and then try to get all those commands not only spot on, but absolutely right every single time, and so others understand what is going on. It's very difficult.
He doesn't want to miss a step.
No.
That when Greg is in the funeral coach, that officer in charge will dismiss the other officers who were saluting and standing command at the time. Then they will go in their vehicles and they will join the procession to the cemetery. Now, we want to take a moment. I'm sorry?
Well, there's actually a pre-procession, and a lot of people get confused by that. There's an advance party.
Okay.
So those are the color guard and bagpipers and other people who have integral roles at the cemetery, and the bugler, the firing party. They will all go in advance of the actual procession. They will take the same route, but they will go as quickly as possible, but as safe as possible, to get there and get everything set up, maybe to get a practice or two of things that they're going to be responsible for before the procession even gets there. So that a lot of people do get out there and think that that's it, and that is not it. So when you see that go through, that's probably a cue within the next probably 15 to 20 minutes that the actual procession will be coming through.
Okay.